What is up? What's happening? Hello, I'm feeling shitty today. Physically, fine. Emotionally, not great. So here, we're gonna sit down. I hope you're sitting. Get comfortable. I'm sitting. I'll probably stand at some points because I'm feeling like this. You know what I mean? Just kind of gotta wiggle it out. Dance and wiggle it out because I'm feeling like shit. We are gonna talk about my favorite books of all freaking time. So these are my favorite books of all freaking time. It's kind of a long list, I'm not gonna lie, and I don't want to have a super long prelude. What I do want to say though, so my preface for this video is, I'm probably not gonna go too in-depth on I don't know, I'm not gonna break down the literary merits of each of these books because these are all so extremely personal, and honestly, favorite books are our favorite books for extremely personal reasons, and it just is what it is. And I don't know, we'll see what I say. We'll see what I say. I never plan these things. I just kind of shoot the shit. So here we are. How many books are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 23, okay? I don't know. We're just gonna see what's going on. What's going on? We're gonna see. Let's start with the modern literary fiction. Why not? Because it's right here. These books are my favorite because they have stuck with me for so freaking long, and I think about them all the time, and they have changed me in some way, and they have changed the way I thought about the world, or they have really resonated and validated some way that I see the world and explain the world to myself. I just fucking love these books, man. I just love these books so much. So we have these here. And again, this is just so far. There's so many more books to be read in this room. In this world, but in this freaking room, man. Jamie Quattro's Fire Sermon. I think I may have read this about 5-ish, maybe 6 years, I don't know, 5-ish years ago. So this book vaguely is about this woman. It's about this woman writing about this intellectual and emotional affair she has with this man. So she's married, but she doesn't feel intellectually or emotionally fulfilled necessarily. This book makes me think about the disconnect between the inner life, the spiritual life and the physical life. Your life can seem perfect and like an ideal, or you may have the kind of life that other people idealize, or that you may have one point idealized, but you feel unfulfilled. There's a spiritual element that is lacking for you, and you need to have that deep, unexplained connection with someone sometimes. The way that love can take different shapes too. And anyway, so that's basically what this book makes me think about. She's thinking about God and religion in the negative, so where it doesn't exist in life, but it pervades her mind constantly because she was raised around it. So she thinks in the spiritual all the time. Like I was saying, she was spiritually unfulfilled, so she's having this intellectual and spiritual affair. Anyway, so these are things that I think about a lot. I don't know. These are things that I think about a lot. And I really remember loving this book. I remember sitting on my bed by my window going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. It was just one of those reading experiences where you just can't breathe almost, and you feel like you're suffocating because you're being given so much air that you didn't have before. I don't know. Someone just put something into words that you never knew you thought and needed to hear. Next, we have The Trick to Time by Kit DeWall. This book this book I read because it was longlisted for the Women's Prize, I think in 2017, and it's about this woman who was raised in Ireland, living in London. She's now older. It starts when she's older, and she's living by the sea in somewhere in England. I don't freaking know. Talking about her daily life. She's meeting other men. She's having relationships, and she's just living her day-to-day life. And then we see her flashbacks of her growing up, of her turning 21 and coming to London to work, and she falls in love, and she gets married, and she has a child. And it's about loss. It's about loss. Trigger warnings for miscarriages or loss of a child. This book just made me cry so much, and I think it really hit me at a time in my life where I was thinking a lot about children and the ability to have children, and how people sometimes take that for granted, and it's not something that everybody can do. It's not something that everybody can do. And yeah, I don't know. So it's just, it made me feel very emotional and sad. And also the connections that we have with people that last with us our whole lives that are unexplained. And when you go through something so intense with someone, that connection never goes away. There's always an invisible tether there that can span vast distances and time. The trick to time. There you go. The trick to time is an invisible tether. I got you. Then we have, I read this year, man. I read this fucking year. I think about this book a lot. And I rewatched the movie the other day. And the movie is by no means anywhere near as good as the book, but I love Timothée Chalamet. And I think obviously the movie is a great reminder of the theme, you know, of the themes in the book, of course. I mean, talk about yearning and sensuality and the awareness of the body and the awareness of time and how little time we really actually have and how little time we actually have to be connected, to be comfortably connected to our sensuality and confident in our sensuality, and to live in that time of your life when you're young and spry and are desired and desirable and desiring. Take advantage of life while we have it and while we're young. Yeah, this book just makes me think about yearning and bodies and wanting to be connected to another body and how we're all only one single body and we'll all only ever really be alone. I love that book. Love that book. Okay, and then we have The Lost Daughter by Elena Ferrante. This book is about a woman so she's an academic and she goes on vacation over the summer to a beach area. I don't remember specifics, okay? But she goes on vacation to a beach area and she's doing her work over the summer, like grading papers and whatnot. And a big boisterous family is hanging out on the beach, and there's a young mother who has a young daughter on this beach who she notices, and the other woman, so the young mother, notices our main character, and it's about that female envy, respect, but envy, and how the older woman, our main character, is at a later point in life, and she feels, to the younger woman, she sees her as free and independent, and she's envious of that because she's a slave essentially to the constraints of her family and to young motherhood, and she's, and her daughter, and how our main character envies her youth and beauty and sensuality and how she's desired by others, and we see our main character wanting to be desired in a way and wanting to desire. Yeah, it just kind of gets into the nitty-gritty. This is another one that has a lot of imagery of like rotting fruit. So again, that awareness of time slipping by and what is freedom and when do we fully have freedom at any point in our lives. And that's just what this book makes me think of, and I think about it all the time. Wonderfully written. The movie was fantastic. So many books right here that I need to talk about. Should I tilt the camera down? I should. Okay, and then we have a book that is, I just want to say, man, I read this before it blew up. I think a lot of people online read it before it blew up. I read this because of the Woman's Prize, but I'm so happy so many other people are discovering it and loving it, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is about Achilles. It's about Achilles and Patroclus and their relationship. It's mainly from, I think this is entirely actually from Patroclus's perspective. So it's him when he was young and him meeting Achilles and their relationship that grows from there, and then them growing up and going off to the Trojan War and their connection and their bond and the devastating, outcome obviously that comes from that. Maybe we all know the story, I don't know. I don't want to assume, but I'm thinking that we all know the story already. Why this book is a personal favorite, other than just its sheer ability to transport you and also teach you some important historical legends and myths and these stories that permeate the collected subconscious of society, and it teaches you and it brings you into the story in such an engaging, fascinating, beautiful, non-pretentious way. And I think that is so important. That is so fucking important. That's what we need, because there are such amazing works of literature that are sitting on my desk right here and are surrounding me and are in the world that are amazing, but they're pretentious and they're not very accessible. They're not very accessible, so it leaves a lot of people out of that experience. But anyways, this makes that story and these people accessible, and it is gorgeous, gorgina, fantabulous. I love you. So fantastic. If you haven't, I mean, I'm sure you read it, but if you haven't yet, read it, okay? Specifically, so the question that what I think about a lot is the question that was posed to Achilles, right? Like, would you rather live a short life and be remembered and be glorified and be lauded as this hero, like you know, be important, never forgotten, but a short life? Or would you rather live a long life where it's not necessarily amazing, but you're so happy? Like, no one will remember you except for your family, and then eventually they'll die, and then no one will remember you. But would you rather have that and have a family and have that peaceful joy, or would you rather, you know, burn bright, hot, and short, you know? And I think that a lot of people would answer that quickly, because they think, you know, the answer is obvious. Like, I'd rather live a long life and be peacefully happy and content and experience simple joys. But I mean, there is something desirable about being fantastic. I don't know, being a really important person, being amazing, having a story, having people look to you and remember. I think that when you're alive and you can't fathom the concept of dying, that's incredibly attractive. And none of us can necessarily fathom the concept of dying. Nobody knows what happens, if anything, after we die. I think whatever people want to believe, I think it's fantastic, but no one knows. And yeah, I think that that's an interesting question that was posed to him, and one I think about often. And this book is The Radiant Lives, I need to move, I'm wiggle a little bit, okay. The Radiant Lives of Animals by Linda Hogan. I found this super randomly in the bookstore in the nature section, but Linda Hogan is a Chickasaw poet, so this is part nonfiction, kind of journaling, memoir-ish, and interspersed with some poems throughout. And it's about Linda Hogan's relationship with the natural world and her independent life that she lives just kind of in the wilderness in this really small town off the beaten path, place in Colorado, and her, again, connection with nature and all the animals and how she lives and how she sees the world. And I think about this book all the time, and I think when I'm personally feeling unwell and detached or disappointed in society or people, okay? Disappointed in people, disappointed in society, and like I want to detach from the expectations of the world, you know? The modern world. I think about this book all the time, and I feel better. I feel better because I look to this woman and I think, look at that life that you created for yourself. That quiet life you created for yourself. You're so independent, and I just admire her so much. And I am tearing up. I am. Maggie O'Farrell. That's not on this list, but yeah. Yeah, I think about this a lot, and it makes me feel better. Makes me feel like this could be possible to me and I could be happy. So, yes, beautiful. Love this. And then we have 2 books to represent just an entire body of work by a freaking author, man. And I'm sorry, not sorry, but these are my joy. These are my youth and my fucking joy, man. I love Sarah J. Maas. Fucking love Sarah J. Maas. So these are my 2 representatives. We have Queen of Shadows, which is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, which is a 7-book series. And this is Tower of Dawn, which is also from the Throne of Glass series. And this was supposed to be a novella. I think this is the 6th book, so this came before Kingdom of Ash. And I was not excited about this one. I'm sorry if you don't if you don't know the Sarah J Maas world, but I'm about to like go on a short little tangent. So if you know, you know, okay? I was not fucking excited for this book to come out. I was so angry that when this was announced and the plot and description of this was announced, I was like, I don't fucking want a whole fucking book where we follow Kale. I don't fucking give a shit. I don't want to read it. And then I started reading it and it swiftly became my favorite. It just shocks me still. So I love this book. I'm not gonna say what it's about because it's the 6th book in a series, but love this. I love Sarah J Maas. She's just like my own personal brand of crack. I really just feel that way. And I know I think she's flawless. Okay, to me, she's flawless. And I know like on literary merits, maybe not, like it's imperfect and there are problems, sure, whatever. But for me, peace, love, blessings, and joy in abundance. Oh my gosh, when new S.J. Maas books come out, the world doesn't exist. The world doesn't exist. That's what I do. I sprint my ass to the bookstore the day that it comes out because one year I failed myself and I pre-ordered it on Amazon because it was going to be cheaper that way, and it came 2 days after. I was really mad about it. I could have canceled the order, but I didn't. Yeah, I missed 2 days. Whatever. Yes. So Sarah J Maas, everything about it. It's just fun, adventure. It's escapism. It's romantic and sexual. You know what I mean? It's just great. It's just fucking great. I want to go to your worlds. Maybe. Like once they've been secured. But like, are they secured? Are we reading Crescent City, people? I don't know. Are they secured? I'm just so excited. I'm so fucking excited. Looking at myself in the mirror. Are you excited? Yes, I'm excited. And then we have Queen of Shadows. Like I said, and this book, again, the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series. Why is this my favorite? Because this is when Selena does the deed. And I felt like, you know, it was building up. It was YA for the first 3 books, and this turned it slightly smutty and adult. And I will respect it for that until the day I die. And I loved it. As a 17-year-old, how old was I? I don't know. I liked it. I appreciated it. And so Rowan, of all the S.J. Maas characters, I would pick Rowan. But maybe not. I'm just going on a Sarah J Maas tangent now. Maybe not. I'm actually really vibing Ethan in the Crescent City books. And you know, I'm pretty sure he's mated with this wolf, the lost wolf. So excited to see where that goes. But yeah, I liked Ethan. Let's talk about an author. Okay, so this is a 20th century classic, technically a classic writer at this point. I love this man so much. I want to have his brain babies so bad. He is no longer with us in this world, but I would have his babies. I would have his brain babies. I would. Oh my gosh, I love him so fucking much. Kurt Vonnegut. So I've read 7 of his, what does he have, like 14 or 16 books? I've read 7 of his books. You bet your ass I'm planning on reading all of them. I'm just, I don't know, spacing them out slowly. So I always have them. I have 4 on my list as the representative. So these are my 4 favorite of his bunch. But to be completely honest, his whole body of works that I've read so far blur together. It's just the way he thinks. It's his cadence of speech that I love. It's the way he sees the world that I love. I love it so much. I don't care what he's writing. I don't give a shit. Like, I just love him and respect him. I think I just want to be in his company. I resonate with the way he thinks and sees the world so much. And yeah, so I guess we'll say Breakfast of Champions, which is about this guy kind of looking around middle America, and he's disillusioned with the world and everything's disappointing, and he's just, fuck it, go on an adventure, doesn't fucking matter, wiggle it out, you know what I'm saying? Feel like shit, wiggle it out, everything's shit, wiggle it out. So that's the vibes that gives me. I'm not really giving you specifics here, we're going through it. Bluebeard. So this is about art, pretty much, and the ridiculousness of art. Work with me here. And how people ascribe, like, what is high art? And why do people ascribe such value to certain works of art? Specifically in here, it's paintings. and different kinds of works of art. And yeah, but why do people ascribe such value to certain things when anybody could have an emotional reaction to any piece of art, and so therefore it's then valuable? Vonnegut sees the absurdity of everything. And I have said this before, but when you get so stuck in your head about trying to do everything right all the time and thinking there's a right way to do everything, otherwise you're a failure and you have failed in life, he reminds you that that is not true. That is not true. There is no right way to see everything's ridiculous. Everything is fucking ridiculous. Who created meaning for any of this? Do whatever you want. Be a good person. Be a good person. He says that too. But do whatever you want. Be happy. Be free. Be kind. And live your life now because it's all you have. And don't work yourself up about trying to be right, because there is no such thing as right. But yeah, anyways, this one's about art, man. Everything's absurd. Everything's absurd. I feel absurd today. I just would like to put that out there into the universe, into the internet universe, I guess. I don't know, just feeling like, I don't know what that was. Moving on. Then we have Slaughterhouse-Five. So this isn't his anti-war novel. And again, the absurdity and the ridiculousness of war. Say it again. Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the back. The absurdity and ridiculousness of war. I have another book like that on this list. Coming up. Coming up. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes at some point. Cat's Cradle, which is about this reporter writing about the creator of the atomic bomb, who also created this fictional thing called Ice 9, where it's like freezes water everywhere. Essentially, if anything touches it, it's gonna die. So if a human touches it, everything that's then touching that is gonna die. The end of the world is upon us, basically, like, you know, the atomic bomb. About how ridiculous the mind of man is, and the ridiculousness of the desire for more and greater things. But what does greater even mean? But how we can create anything. We can create anything. If we think it, we can make it. But should we? Should we? No, we shouldn't. Because it's our greed is what will destroy us, essentially. That's what I get from this. I love him. I love him. I will have your brain babies. Another author, which we have multiples from, who is a Victorian author. We love her. I've said this so many freaking times. I love her so much. But it's George Eliot. Oh my god, I love you. So George Eliot and Kurt Vonnegut are my top two favorite authors. 100,000,000,000%. They're my top two favorite writers. So here they are right next to each other. So apropos. But Middlemarch is my favorite book. I love Middlemarch. I love Dorothea Brooke. I love Dorothea Brooke. I don't even know necessarily what I want to say about this, but the emotional reaction that I had while reading this really struck me at the right time of my life. And I haven't reread it. I've only read it once, but I would love to reread it and see what I see from it now at this point in my life. And that reminds me of something that I did actually want to mention. Harold Bloom, so a really lauded, Harold Bloom, the lauded literary critic of the 20th century, he said in one of his criticisms of, specifically in his Antony and Cleopatra criticism, that when we read, we meet ourselves. When we read, we meet ourselves, because what we see from this written work of art and it's not going to be the same that someone else sees necessarily. We are learning, it's a mirror. It's holding up a mirror to ourselves and how we feel at that point in our lives, and specific themes in our lives that we're thinking about, maybe things we want to work on in ourselves and what have you. So I'd be really curious to read something like this novelized epic. I would love to reread it, just to see what I glean from it at this point. Middlemarch. I love Dorothea Brooke. I love her. She's so earnest, and she just wants good for the world, and she wants good for herself, and she has an idea of what that means, and it is not what she thought. And life takes many twists and turns and pivots for lots of these young people. In this book, it follows lots of young people who have an idea of what their lives should be like, of what's going to make them happy, and they follow that. Good for them. But life falls apart around us all the time, quite typically. And it's about how we grow from that and continue to live from that. Now life's never really what we friggin' expect. And I just fucking love this fucking book, man. I love Dorothea Brooke, again. And there's a specific scene in this that makes me so emotional. This is my favorite. I keep important things in this book because it's my favorite book. Anyway, there's a specific scene in this book where I don't remember characters' names, but Dr. Lydgate, the woman that Dr. Lydgate married, there's a scene near the end where, so that female character is kind of vibing with the man that Dorothea now loves. And they're vibing and she sees it, and it's like her reaction to that is something that I so admire because I would feel like I would be incapable of it. I just love her. I love her as a character. I admire her. I look to her. And she grows so much. She's not perfect by any means. And she grows so much. She has such character development. And I just... Okay, moving on. The Mill on the Floss. I think I talked about this book at one point. So in this book we follow Maggie. And she and her brother and her family own this mill. And they were comfortable. And then they lost a lot of their money, basically. And it's about her being in society, and then she loves this man, or this young man, in one way, and then she meets another young man, and she experiences love for him in a different way. And she essentially becomes a fallen woman, and it's how she's basically shunned from society for this. Anyways, what I think about so much, and again, why these books are my favorite is because I think about something that was in them so often. But specifically what I think about in this book is the scene with Maggie's brother, or the whole situation with Maggie's brother. So he, when he's growing up, his dad wants him to go be taught by a tutor and go to a fancy boys' school to learn about the classics and to learn about art, which I think is incredibly important, and I fucking love art. But how he sees, and I think this is cool, how he sees that certain careers that are considered high class, upper class careers they're not practical, and how a practical class, like a working class essentially, this is what it makes me think, is not as appreciated, but that's what's holding up basically the foundations of society. How you need practical skills to actually be able to support yourself in life, right? Like his whole life fell apart around him, so then he wants to go into a different type of career and industry to be able to practically do something and support himself, as opposed to, as opposed to learning something else that won't necessarily give him the practical skills and keeps him constrained within a certain branch of society, because, I mean, only certain people of a certain class could learn those things or had time to learn those things, so it kept him constrained in that group of society. And yeah, I just think about that. I just think about that a lot, where we place value and how there's value really in everything and how you shouldn't overlook anyone or anything. But anyways, so we have the other anti-war novel. We have All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Maria Remarque, which was just turned into a movie, which I like the book a lot more than the movie. But this is just another one that just shows how fucking ridiculous war is. And we follow, if you've seen the movie, our main character, who is so young and he thinks that war is going to be glorious. And all these boys think war is going to be glorious and going to give meaning to life, and they will be heroes and everything will be amazing. But then it's not, obviously. And then they come back from war and they can't assimilate back into life, and they see the absurdity of life, and they see the absurdity of the world, and the absurdity of everything is kind of what I get from this as well. And yeah, this is a very powerful book, and I think about it a lot. And yes, if you watch, I mean, I'd recommend reading the book as opposed to watching the movie. I just think it's better. But yes. Okay. And then we have Femme de Guiles by Madeleine Bourgeau, which I believe is translated from the French. And this is a short little novella. It's like 100-ish pages. And this is very feminist. So it's about this woman who's married and her husband, she just had a baby and her husband is having an affair with someone. Spoiler alert, it's her sister. And it's about different types of women. The sister is young, wild, free, and it's now attractive to the husband, who has this wife who whole life and her whole body has been physically shaped and mentally shaped to be a mother and to be a wife. And so she's no longer exciting, and she's lost that excitement for herself too. And there's a scene in here where, a really quiet scene, where she's just looking at like a field worker. I don't know who he was, I can't remember, but a young man who's working in the fields, and she just looks at him, and she, obviously to us, we know she's desiring this young man, and she has this moment where she thinks, should I follow that part of myself, or should I stay with this part of myself? Yeah, this book made me mad. It made me feel mad as a woman, and it made me recognize, it's a total side note, but it made me recognize when men didn't say thank you if you did something like clean their plate at dinner, or I don't know, but yeah, anyways, and it, yeah, just thinking again, and maybe how, like, if you are a mother, if you are a wife, how then you're devalued and you're taken for granted, and how that's not fair, because those things have not died in yourself. Your roles have pivoted and they have taken over you, and it's, yeah. Love that book. And then we have Waiting for Godot, which is a play. It's by Samuel Beckett, and this is an absurdist tragicomic play, and it's weird, but I think about it all the time. And I watched a version of it while I was kind of flicking through it, and I would pause it and then read things and then rewatch it, because I find, to get the cadence of speech, to understand it, that was helpful to me with Beckett. And same with Endgame, when I read/watched Endgame. So I'd recommend doing that if you can, but anyway, it was free on YouTube. It's about these two men just standing in a dusty field, waiting for Godot, waiting for this person that never comes, waiting for them to come, and we don't know how much time passes. Yeah, it's about wasting time, maybe wasting time, I don't know, waiting for something that will never come. And I think about that. I just think about this a lot. So anyways, I've never read any of his novels, I've just read those two plays by him, but I think that he is, I'm about to cry, like, so fantastic and upsetting, and you have to be focused and be in the right, I think, mind space to be able to absorb his works fully and I don't know, at least for me, resonate with them. And then we have The Hour of the Star by Clarice Lispector, which is another very short novella. It's like 80 pages. But this is dense, man. It took me a week to read this 80-page little book. And this reminds me so greatly of the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. So that the philosophical ideas in the book of Ecclesiastes, where it's like you know that line in the book of Ecclesiastes where it's like, vanity of vanities, all is vanities, all under the sun has already been done, kind of a thing. So it kind of ties into like absurdity and ridiculousness. Totally. Wow, I'm sensing a theme here. This is who I am, okay? Anyways, we follow this young female who lives essentially in poverty and squalor in Brazil. And this young man who she has this relationship with, and he is talking about, you know, how he wants certain things, and he's working towards, you know, having certain material. He's so focused on material items and what he doesn't have and what he wants to have, and she's not focused on any of that. And she's just so happy, and on the surface she's not living a life anyone would want to live, but she's so fine. She's just fine. And it's about our mentalities and the way that we look at life. And yeah. So if you haven't read this, I really recommend reading this. I love Clarice Lispector. She's a very, I think, philosophical writer, and she goes on a lot of tangents. So just keep that in mind. But yeah. We have the Oresteia by Aeschylus, I believe is how you pronounce it, which is a Greek trilogy, tragic trilogy of plays about the house of Atreus, right? So Agamemnon and his wife Clytemnestra and his son Orestes And then so he's the father of Iphigenia and Electra, which Jennifer Saint wrote a book called Electra, which I haven't read yet. I'm really excited to read it. It's back there, that's why I pointed. But I fucking I'm shocked. I was shocked. I was reading this like, you gotta be joking. You gotta be joking. This is so good. This was written such a long fucking time ago. This was written a long freaking time ago, man. And I think, so specifically for me with this, and why I think about this so much, is that it really, and at this point in my life, this is a vibe that I was really vibing with, it really shows what the foundations of our society, so what's, again, absorbed into our collected subconscious and has aged with us throughout generations and generations. The misogyny, and the sexism, and how women are looked at, and how meekness is, and it's manipulative meekness. I don't think women are actually meek. I think that you're smart. They wear their intelligence in different ways, and it's manipulative, man. It's fucking manipulative. Yeah, it just made me think, yeah, how women are treated and how different types of women are viewed, and how if a woman has an opinion, if a woman gets upset, if a woman feels rage and fire and does something about it, or if she even just thinks it and feels it and is just showing it in any kind of way, she's such a villain and she deserves to die, is essentially what this is. And what you see in Medea, right, by Euripides, and so many other Greek tragic plays, it's mind-boggling, right? Because it's such a basic concept that you're like, oh no, the world isn't like that. And maybe it's not as obviously like that, but it's subtly still like that. It really is. And I don't know what to tell you if you don't see that, if you don't agree with me. I don't know what to tell you. You're probably a guy and you're probably very privileged, but like, it's insane. It makes me mad. It makes me mad. It's crazy. So I love that. Got me looking so crazy right now. Love's got me looking so crazy right now. Okay, I'm gonna crash after this. I'm gonna crash. And then we have 4 books left. I need to hurry up. We have The Sorrows of Young Werther by Goethe. At least I don't say Goethe, okay? I know I pronounced this wrong, but it's hard for me. I love this book. This is I think about this book all the time. And this is gonna make me cry if I really say why, but I'm gonna try, okay? I'm gonna try. This book is like romantic with a capital R, but it's written from, he's an unreliable narrator, so it's an epistolary novel, so he's writing letters to his friend who never responds to him, or we never see the responses. So it's, again, very unreliable. It's all from his perspective, and I'm gonna say he's bipolar, totally, which it hits very personally, I'm not, but like hits personally for me and people I know in my life. And the extremes of his feelings that, if reduced in some ways, I think anybody could relate to, and I could definitely relate to. I feel very extremely and intensely, but that's more like Marianne though from Sense and Sensibility. That should be on this list. Why isn't that on this list? Nope, started too long. But Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, honorable mention. It should be on this list, but yeah, honorable mention just because of Marianne and Eleanor. Just their characters and how different they are, but how I think that they can both be felt so extremely in anyone. I really do, but I feel them very extremely, so it's very personal to me. Yes, and this man falls in love with this young woman, and it's about his relationship with this young woman, but she's engaged, and then he is very depressed. So in the beginning, he's just exuberant, living, loving life. And then he's definitely not at the end. And it just reminds me of certain people in my life who have affected me so entirely. So I just think about this a lot, and I'm gonna cry, so I'm moving on. And then Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, who I read this year, but wow. I mean, what an amazing writer. I think that on like a skill level, this book is insane, like unmatched, and just the oh my gosh, like how talented Virginia Woolf is, and how she conveys so many different perspectives and slips so seamlessly from so many different perspectives so many different perspectives, and you don't realize the slip, and it's all completely from there. So it's stream of consciousness. She's so talented. So like on that level, like on a skill level, I'm just amazed, and amazed. But we follow Mrs. Dalloway, Clarissa Dalloway, who's getting ready for a party that she's gonna have at the end of this day. So this takes place over one day, and it's about her thinking about her past, and different people from her past come in to her life on this day. And we, again, slip into so many different people's minds, and someone who's unrelated to her but related thematically is Septimus Harding, I think is his name, Septimus. And he is married, and we see him with his wife, and we slip into her consciousness sometimes as well. But he has PTSD because he was in the war, and it's about PTSD from war, obviously, but it's about PTSD from life and the war of daily life, and the war of mundanity, really, and of any relationship, the psychological warfare with ourselves. And it's, I think that is, yes, oh my god, yes. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This was the first classic, that might be a lie. This is one of the first classics that I read that I was just fucking flabbergasted. Amazed. And I think that something that, the very obvious theme, which is what strikes me so much about this and what sticks with me about this book, that every single person, no matter what they look like, no matter who they are, they have feelings. And this book just makes me think about empathy. Totally. Just about empathy and how we need to be, just remove ourselves from ourselves and try to feel alongside other people without any preconceived notions, which is really difficult because we've been conditioned to have self-preservation, right? To be protective, and that's, I think, where a lot of judgment comes from, but it's good to be aware of that and try to detach from that and have more empathy, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's what this book makes me think of. And it's just so beautifully written, and I can't believe Mary Shelley wrote this when she was 19. Are you kidding? 19? This is another epistolary novel, and I think the scene where the creature is observing of the family in the little house and reading, he's interacting with literature, and he's feeling, and he's writing, and he's yearning, is so beautiful. So that was the most beautiful, amazing part of this book. But last but not least, this is nonfiction, and this is Leo Tolstoy, and we have a confession. This edition is a confession and other religious writings, but specifically it's a confession that's my favorite. And I believe it's published in the Penguin Great Ideas collection. It has like a green spine. But this was the first work that I read by Tolstoy, and I thought that he would be my favorite person ever, and I've read a lot by him since then, and that has not been the case, but I think he's a fascinating thinker. And person. A confession specifically is him writing about depression and suicide, and about depression and about the meaning of life and meaninglessness of life. And there's that imagery that he writes in this. It's pretty famous. I don't know if you might already be aware of it, but it's this hanging on a thin branch in a well and something coming and attacking you from above the well, and if you should continue holding on, and basically we're doomed no matter what. And yeah, again, kind of absurd, but he doesn't see it from an absurd perspective. He's very realist, and this is something that was very important to me when I did read it. So yeah, it also makes me think of The Great Gatsby, which I don't love The Great Gatsby. That's definitely not one of my favorite books, but you know, when Daisy says of her daughter, I hope for her that she's beautiful and stupid, basically. And Tolstoy says that, like, it's better to be stupid, because when you have any sort of intelligence, you just see the shit. I mean, for him, he's looking at it from a very depressed perspective. It's not absurdist, but a lot of these other authors on my list see that too, but they're looking at it from like, okay, well, I see the shit, I see the pointlessness, party it out, you know what I'm saying? Just wiggle it out, it's whatever. But yeah, he kind of takes more of a depressed stance on it, but I see where he's You can obviously see where he's coming from, and it's very well written. So yes, that is my list of favorite books of all time, again, with Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen on it, I will say. And what are your favorite books? Thank you for watching. I'm feeling a little bit better now. I'm tired. My throat is hoarse, and I'm gonna drink more water. Thanks for watching. Bye!